Well, hello, my friends. How are you? Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Real Talk Show with yours truly, Dr. G.R.I.T. I'm so excited to be here among you guys today. It has been fantastic. I'm getting the beams. I'm getting people starting to chime in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. We have a phenomenal show tonight. I'm so excited. I hope you guys have had a fantastic day. I know this day has been very eventful, full of energy. It should have been an incredible day. I know for myself, it has been very eventful, and I can talk a little bit about that. But I first want to check in with you guys and make sure that you have had an incredible day, that you've been able to center yourself and know that you matter, know that your voice matters, what you do matters, what your purpose is in life matters. I want you to know that I care for you and that I wish you the best in all of your endeavors. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I've had so many people care for me. Even today I had, we had our makeup graduation ceremony at the University of Florida. You guys already knew that I was blessed enough, thankful to God, that I was able to obtain a doctorate in educational leadership and administration at University of Florida. And I have been definitely putting that work to use as I've spoken about equity, closing the achievement gap in schools, just dealing with, helping our students so that they can graduate and so much more. So I had an exciting time. My amazing mentor, Vicki, she showed up on the scene to support me. I thank God for her. And we just had a blast today. Really just, it was just a great day. And so speaking of that, I would not have been able to even attend college had it not been for my mentor, Vicki, because actually, I don't know if I shared this part with you guys, but when I was a homeless youth at the age of 16, my last 2 years of high school, I was a homeless youth, and I had 18 scholarships. But guess what? Vicki was the one that would take me to all of my scholarships, my interviews. She would kind of help me make sure that I was making sense of my college application sometimes. Long story short, because of Vicki and Barbara, the lady that was at the shelter at the YMCA at the time, they really kind of pitched in and helped. And, so many other people, Mrs. Cynthia, who helped me with the Gates Millennium Scholarship to just figure out what that was like. So the tribe came through and helped me as a vulnerable, homeless, at-risk youth so that I didn't fall through the cracks and drop out of high school. College was not a topic that we really talked about in my home. We just had other interests. And so, therefore, I never could really see the reality of going to college. So the fact that this one lady who I actually met at the YMCA folding towels, I just handed her a towel out of just volunteer work. And it turned into this beautiful 18 plus year relationship now because she decided to pay it forward as a mentor, volunteer. She was not a part of any program. She just did this from the bottom of her heart. And so now that she was able to come up to Gainesville and actually rejoice with me in such a huge moment of graduating with, the final degree at University of Florida, I would not have been able to do it because she, like I said, she drove me up from the homeless shelter to the college dorm overnight. And there you have it. The rest is history. And so my hat goes off to Vicki Oldham and to people like her that are making a difference, and people that really need it the most, which are our homeless youth and our youth that are in poverty. And so there's nothing like dealing with poverty, chronic poverty, and situations like that when you have so much ambition and dreams and goals, and then yet you don't have that support. You need help. And so with that said, I want to bring someone on the show that is a rock star that definitely specializes in helping, different youth, homeless youth, and people in the community, people that need support. She's not just saying, oh, it would be nice, if we could help this person. Well, no, she's actually being very proactive about it. And so with that said, I wanted to bring her on the show because I felt like she's really making a difference. And we need people like this in the world that are doing the work, not just talking about it, but really doing the work. And so with that, but before I bring her on the show, I want to also remind you guys, because I have 1,000 announcements. The Real Talk Show will be aired on the radio station SoulNet WKDH every Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, Ken. And make sure you check out www.soulnetwkdh.com to tune in. Every show will be aired on that radio station. In addition, the Real Talk Show will also be aired on Swain Girl Media Channel, TV channel by Precious Swain. So even this session as well. Thank you, Precious, for this phenomenal opportunity. And so with that, I also want to tell you, make sure you follow me on social media. And now I'm going to get India out of the way because I want you guys to embrace this phenomenal guest tonight, who is the executive director of the No More Foundation, none other than Tammy Kent. How are you? Good evening.
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's an honor to have you. Now, Tammy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start. I am honestly just honored to be a part of this. I mean, hearing your story and even hearing you share about today and the people who impacted you and your life the most just speaks so much to the heart of who I am and what we do as an organization. It started for me years and years ago. I grew up with a praying mama and in a house where we learned what it meant to love God and love others. And it's funny, but I will often share this story about how when I'm pretty sure my mom might correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure I was 5 or 6 years old, and we had a teeny tiny church, and she was teaching us about the scripture and about as you care for the least of these, it's like you're caring for Jesus himself. What does it mean to do that? And we were living in an area of town where we were surrounded by people in need. And my grandma, and again, this is back in the, probably the 70s. so it would not be PC at all today, but my grandma had bought me a brand new fur coat. And back then that was a big deal. I'm sure it cost her a lot of money. And we walked one day, I lived in Texas. It's hot, really hot. They don't ever have winter in Texas. But that year winter hit and it was cold. And I walked across the street and my neighbor was cold and she didn't have a coat. She told me she didn't have a coat. And I remembered what they taught us in Sunday school. So I took off my coat and I gave it to her, which my mother was incredibly proud of. But my grandmother, I think, probably had some caution because she was like, what? How in the world did she do this? But, that was the family I grew up in. That's the people who raised me. So I grew up looking for those who needed help, always kind of keeping your eye out for people who were standing alone. There wasn't a holiday that they weren't inviting, people who didn't have anywhere to go, and so, it's funny because even my boys talk about now that they're old enough to start getting married, they're like, yeah, there's probably not a holiday you're going to come over that there won't be somebody that you don't know. And it's funny, you don't realize how much that just plays into who you are as a human being. So, I don't know, when you say, how did you get to where you are? I think it's just kind of been a part of who I was since I was little, but it's because it's a part of who my mama was. It's part of how I was raised. And I think loving God and loving people is huge. And I just want to see more people connect to that and see how simple it can be.
Wow. So this is fantastic that it started at such a young age and now it's led you into what you do today. Talk to us about your career, this powerful career, what you do today.
If you had told me when I was young, my youngest son is getting ready to graduate this year. And so we're graduating, he's graduating, he's going to school. And, again, all the questions, what do you want to do? What are you going to major in? I was artsy as a kid. I wanted to major in music. And if you had told me that I would be doing what I would be doing, I don't think I would be shocked by it, but it wasn't a part of my plan. It wasn't kind of the thing that I had a goal set for. I think it's just one of those beautiful pictures about how when you step into one thing, God leads you to the next thing, and that leads you to the next thing, and you find yourself doing something that you were called to do your whole life, and so, as the executive director of the No More Foundation, I get the honor and the privilege of spending my life connecting people to care for the vulnerable. That's what we do. We connect people to care. It's just that simple. And we wrap those words "no more" like a battle cry around 4 strategic initiatives. No more slavery, no more poverty, no more orphans, and ultimately no more hopeless. Because we know that those are issues that are happening in the world today, and they're not issues that are independent of one another. As you and I were talking even before we came on live, when you go into communities that are struggling with poverty and people are struggling just to make ends meet, you find situations where kids are removed from their home, not because the parents don't love them and don't want what's best, but because the situations and maybe the generational cycles lead to places that lead them into a system of care that they can't get out of, and if people aren't there, just like you mentioned, that woman that picked up your towel, if someone doesn't pick up the towel for those kids, they are the most vulnerable for human trafficking. A lot of times when we hear human trafficking, we think third world, we think, oh, that doesn't happen in my city, that doesn't happen where I am. It's happening everywhere, in every community, every socioeconomic background. It's pervasive in our society. But the ones that are the most vulnerable, the very most vulnerable, are those kids that age out of foster care, those kids that don't have someone that picks up the towel and says, you know what, I'll follow you for the next 18. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm joking. When you told that story, I was crying over here because I'm thinking there's something so beautiful about, she picked up your towel, she looked you in the eye, and she said something about it. Just, she said she made the decision to walk with you. And maybe it didn't happen in that split second moment, but over the years as you connected, and that you would reflect on that today. Not every kid gets that, but they all deserve it. Every human being on the planet deserves that. Every one of us are worthy of love, to be seen and valued, respected and cared for, and so many go without. And so for us as an organization, just wrapping it up a little bit, it's helping people step in where they can, where they can pick up the towel. And maybe that is going in and serving in an area, in a community where people just need a hand up, or they need some help, where that mama just needs that single mom just needs a little extra help. Maybe it's stepping in and helping recruit and mobilize foster parents, mentors, people that will serve and wrap around those families to care for those things, so that they don't end up being the victims. But then there are those people whose hearts just rip apart when they think about women on the streets, people that are vulnerable, young men. I mean, it's again, there's nobody that it doesn't touch. And so how do we connect people with that passion and calling to the things that are tangible? Because most people want to do something. You cannot convince me that there are people, I mean, I don't know. I would be hard pressed to believe it. Like the scripture, I grew up in church, and one of my favorite scriptures talks about how eternity is written on the hearts of all men. And I think there's, the fact is we all believe we have a purpose. And so how can we connect that purpose to serving someone in need, so that they can either be the fence at the top of the hill, protecting that person from falling down, or the ambulance in the bottom, picking them up and helping lead them to rescue and restoration and rehabilitation. Like, we can be both. We can do that. But sometimes people just need a nudge because they don't know how or when or where or who, and sometimes even why. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like, in a world as fast paced, maybe they don't even understand the real why, and they just need that. So that's what I get to do. How incredible is that? Like, I feel honored that this is what I get to do. I don't even know what to say about that, but I'm grateful.
Well, as someone on the other side of receiving, the supports that you and other powerhouses like yourself, are giving out to the community, thank you. I can't ever thank my mentor enough. Like sometimes we go ballistic in tears, in love, and beside ourselves because we just thank God. We know that truth, and so there are a lot of holidays that like you're talking. There are a lot of times she opened her home to me over the holidays, or if University of Florida closed down and said students got to go off campus, and I can't go on the streets for 3 weeks.
Right.
She would take me in her home, her and my other mentor, and so I just want to say thank you for that. And so, with that said, what do you think, or what do you feel has been the most impactful part of the work that you do?
I don't know. Gosh, that's a hard question. It's funny because I know I had texted you and said, give me an idea of what you're thinking. And even when I read that, I thought it's so hard to just kind of pin it down, because there's nothing like sitting across the table from someone who is just ready and willing, but needs someone to connect the dots, and watching that light bulb go off, where it's like, it's this aha moment that transforms kind of maybe the trajectory of where they're going to go. There's nothing like that. It's almost hard to put into words, because there's this intangible sense of God at work in those moments. And it's beautiful, and it's incredible, because it's, sometimes you're just the person going, did you know? So somebody's pouring out their heart about how maybe it's their story, just like you're talking about. It's, I struggled, I grew up in a family where there wasn't enough food, and I know how that feels, and I just want to help, and to say, well, here are 4 opportunities for you. And these are the places in our city that tomorrow you could get engaged and you could do something, and to watch them go, wait, what? Like here? And again, whether it's that, or you're talking about serving a victim or a survivor of trafficking, and helping people engage in that. And, there's nothing like that. But then on the other side, personally, when my husband and I launched No More 10 years ago, we knew we couldn't ask people to step into something we weren't willing to do ourselves. We weren't going to get up in front of people and say, hey guys, God's called us to care.
Right.
You go do that. Doesn't it sound good? Now you go do that. Right. And so, we stepped in, we became foster parents, and it was beautiful, gut-wrenching, difficult, holy. I mean, there are so many words to describe. For 6 years, we had 6 beautiful girls. And if ever God had made a way for us to adopt, today I would say I have 3 boys and 1 beautiful girl, but that wasn't our story. And in fact, sometimes I think maybe God didn't allow that, because I can stand in front of people and say, I don't have the beautiful story with the bow on top, but I can tell you it's worth it. It might take you to your knees, and you might feel like this could possibly take me out, but it's worth it, because God's going to use every ounce that you've got for his glory. He's going to take it and he's going to use it. But on the trajectory of our time, and in as foster parents, and then again in the work that we do, there have been times where I have personally connected with an individual. And there's one person in particular that comes to mind. And, I grew up, I didn't grow up without parents, and I know what a gift that is. I will never take that for granted, especially meeting the people that I've met and knowing what people go through on a regular basis. But one woman in particular connected, and I remember we have walked the journey together for years, and I'd say we're going on 6 years now.
Nice.
But there's something about when you come close to the need and it becomes personal, all of a sudden it's not those people,
Ah,
it's my sister. It's not that person. It's not that addict. It's not, this situation. This is my person. This is the person that I can end up. And I think walking with someone through the trajectory of being broken into healing and into wholeness, and then watching the restoration with their children and their family. I mean,
yeah.
that's why we do what we do. And so we've had a front row seat, in many ways, with a few that I wouldn't trade for the world. I mean, it's why we do what we do. It's personal. And it's interesting even talking about that, when we go and we speak, whether we're speaking to churches or groups, in the scripture, in Matthew 25, which is one of the foundation scriptures of our organization. In Matthew 25, Jesus is painting this picture of what it's going to look like someday when we all stand before God. And he says, he's going to divide the people. And he basically looks to one group and says, when I was hungry, you fed me, and thirsty, you gave me something to drink. Sick and in prison, you visited me. Naked, you clothed me. A stranger, you invited me in. Right? He covers all the bases.
Yes.
And then he looks at them and he says, as you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And my husband will often say, and I will often say, Jesus made it personal. When they become these and mine, when those kids become my kids, when that single mama becomes my sister, when you become my sister, we can't help but be changed by that. We can't help but do things differently, because I will tell you, there was a time when this one particular survivor relapsed, and anyone who's walked someone through that kind of struggle knows that relapse is part of recovery. Sometimes you got to take 2 steps forward or 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. I mean, it's a journey. And many times relapse is a part of the recovery. You've got to figure out how to overcome. But I remember just being sick to my stomach and thinking, I can't sit in my house. I can't. I mean, and people were like, "You're crazy." And I'm driving up and down. I'm driving up and down the main roads, just looking for her, because I'm thinking, if I see her, I can tell her, "You matter. You're loved. Please, come home." Right? Because all of a sudden, she belonged to me. And that's the way God wants us to feel for those in need, but we don't always get close enough to feel that way. So,
it's funny you say that. I'm going to get to our questions in a minute, but it makes me think of whenever you have a pet and say someone loses their pet, that feeling they get of emptiness.
Right.
You don't know if that pet's going to come home. You don't know if it's going to get hit by a car. Somebody's going to take the pet and run it off, or, throw it in the pond, or throw it, across the street, or take it to a whole nother, state. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And there is a pit in your stomach where you feel completely out of control and hopeless.
Yeah.
Because of that pet. And you would give anything. You would give $500, $1,000 to get that pet back ASAP, because that pet matters. Yeah. How much more should we feel for those out there?
Right.
Bleed red like we do. And all they need is someone to come alongside them and say, I'm going to take you for this season and help you. Yeah. I'm going to give you whatever I have, do what I can with my resources. And some people God has blessed so much. It is ridiculous.
Right.
What is spending a moment with someone, giving somebody something? My mentor, one of my mentors, simplest thing she would do for me, she would take me to the store, the dollar store, and buy me $1 gift. Yeah. Once a week, or she spent $4 a month on me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think sometimes it's people just don't know how to help.
Well, we think it has to be this grand thing. We think that it has to be this big gesture when, just like you said, it's the trip to the store. It's the, I care about you enough to take you somewhere to buy something special. But nothing to do with the value of the item. It has everything to do with the value of the trip to the store. Yeah. Now, I picked you up. I care about you. I want you to get something that you love. And even if it's $1, who cares? It doesn't have to be this grand gesture. And that's the thing. I think people have a tendency to look at these big issues, you know, like human trafficking or foster care and the crisis that we have in our country right now specific to that. Or you look at homelessness or poverty and they think, well, I got to do something big, when it's like, no, you know, if you just took a bag of groceries to the woman down the street who's a single mama who may not have enough money on the next paycheck to cover it all, like your $25 bag of groceries might be ample. But for you, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, I don't know. I think we sometimes think it has to be this big thing when really it's the time, it's the energy, it's the investment, it's the seeing someone. Yeah. And I think we live in a world where we see everybody all the time. Like, you know, you and I are online right now. We're on Zoom, or, you know, we're on virtual, right? We're live streaming, right? But you can be on Zoom at work, or you can be on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or everywhere. We're constantly with each other, but not seeing each other. Yeah. Not really seeing each other. And there's something about knowing that someone sees you enough that they know and they care enough to meet your need, that it just, one act of kindness can transform. And I think sometimes people go, oh yeah, that's a catchy phrase. Actually, it's true. We just don't put enough. I mean, we think, oh, that sounds great on paper, but no, like literally, you just said she picked up a towel. Like I'm going to be sharing your story tomorrow. I'm sure. To someone, I go, a woman at the YMCA picked up a towel. She wasn't a guardian ad litem. She wasn't a formal mentor. She just saw a girl in need and she chose to mentor her. The act of picking up a towel and looking her in the eyes was the beginning of transforming life. But we don't, again, it's like I think we think, oh, well, it's got to be, you know, I've got to give 12 hours a month, or I've got to go through this formal training. And yes, there are some things that you need training for. Don't get me wrong. Like there's some things that you absolutely have to have training for. You cannot become a foster parent without training. It's very important. You know, we have to be trained for things that need it. But I think sometimes we're hindered by this sense of it's got to be something big. And it doesn't. It just can be that simple kindness. So,
and you know, I think people that are, sometimes you have people that can give, philanthropists or people that are just fortunate. They're just in a good spot. Right. No issues, just in a good spot in life. Right. I think there's a sense of embarrassment or a sense of fear of rejection to give. So they're like, I would give, but what if I go to that person and they look at me like I'm weird because I give them that bag of groceries, or I give them $20 or $100 and they're like, huh? You know? Yeah. And so what would you say to that person that's like, I would, but that's really out of my comfort zone and I don't really feel like getting rejected. So I just kind of stay to myself. So what do you say to people like that?
Well, I would say that that's where an organization like ours kind of comes into play, because we step in as that in between to bridge the gap between the giver, the person who's passionate and wants to do it, but isn't quite sure how and doesn't quite know who. I mean, and we do live in this weird culture where people are very hesitant to trust. You know, am I giving my money to somebody who's going to use it wisely? Am I, you know, I mean, sometimes people donate and they feel like, oh, I just, you know, maybe the money wasn't spent the way they expected. So there's this, there's this sense of, I think people have a hesitation with that too. And so, with our organization, that's our heart, is to like bridge that gap. And I know we're not the only one out there. So I'm not touting us as like, we're like, but I think if somebody's nervous, I think it's always good to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And if you don't have an organization that comes to mind, ask around. Most of us have a generous person in our lives. Someone we might go, they might know the answer to that question. And you might say, hey, so if I have someone that I want to give a bag of groceries, how would I go about doing that? And then some people go, I would prefer to give through an organization. And I would, and I'm going to just put this out there. I think there are, just like you mentioned, there are a lot of people who have the means, who have the resources, that are called to be the senders. There are a group of people that have the capability of doing incredible work that they themselves don't necessarily know how they fit. And it's like, they might be called to write the check, because there are 100 people that are ready, that don't have the funds, but have all the heart. And so we need the goers, and we also need the senders, and neither should feel as if they don't measure up, because on one hand, I've sat in the room with people that feel called to go, but don't have the money. And they feel like, gosh, if I only had the money, I could do so much more. But then I've sat in the room with people that are wealthy, that feel like, gosh, I feel ashamed because money, and I can write a check, but I just don't feel like, I feel like that's not enough. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like what good can be done?
What good could be done?
Your piece in the puzzle. We say it often, and I know we're not the only ones, but we may not all be called to do the same thing. Like, we're not like, just like our, we have, not one of us can solve the foster care crisis or the issues with poverty or the issue. Not one organization can wholesale take care of the issues, but we each have our part to play. And so it's like, if we can come together, and those senders could feel like, gosh, look what I'm able to do, not with like guilt for what they can't do, but a sense of like, I am mobilizing 100 people to action, and God has gifted me to do that. And then you've got the other people that are on the other end going, I may not have the resources, but look, God provided. And so I'm going out and I'm going to meet the need. I mean, I think that's, we need both. And so I guess my answer, one question to the question, and I'm sorry.
No, this is beautiful.
Major rabbit trail. But the idea being that, first and foremost, if you know someone, ask. If you don't know someone, look, research, find an organization that might be doing it and see if you can partner with them. And then, and because again, there are people that are on the front lines meeting the need, desperately need the resources, and could use the help, and may be able to connect you with the very places you want to serve. And so I think either one is doable in that sense. And it's also really, really normal to have trepidation, I think, about maybe that one-on-one, because you don't know, like, how's it going to be received? How are they going to feel? Do I drop it at the door and then ring the doorbell and then go? Or do I stick around and have a conversation? Like, normal questions. Like, we're all human trying to figure this out. Like, nobody's got the market cornered. Like, we got to figure it out. But I think it's just all starts with having a heart. So
I agree. And, it reminds me of a situation. I was a speaker for a nonprofit organization, and they were trying to raise funds for, scholarships for students. And they were just trying to raise, however much. And there were philanthropists in the room. And I remembered one guy, he said, well, if I invest in kids, that are at risk, and homeless youth, things like this, how do I know I get a return on my investment? And so I just kind of answered him and said, well, you can look at me because I went from being homeless to getting all these degrees. And then I can't tell you how many thousands of lives as a teacher.
Yeah.
as an administrator that I've been able to see go graduate and do awesome things in their lives because they had a teacher like myself, a leader like myself in front of them to give them that fuel and that motivation so that they didn't drop out and that they broke the cycle of poverty off of their own lives. I have many testimonies of students that I had my hand on that are doing phenomenal things. And of course, I give God the glory for that, but I'm saying the return on investment for all of those that have pitched into my life has been exponential. So as a result of that, the guy did strike a check for $50,000. But I say that because people are worried about,
right,
are there the success stories out there that would show me that I would get a return on my investment if I did donate to your organization, if I did, partner with you and gave a scholarship or, gave funding for diapers for women, with small children, or gave, funding for food and boxes of food or bags of food.
Right.
So can you talk to us then for those out there that might be philanthropists or those that might be interested in partnering about some success stories that can kind of ease their angst about moving forward as someone to contribute to this amazing cause?
Sure. I have honestly countless stories. And so I'm thinking through a few to share because, oh my goodness, it's like, where do I start? What does this look like? It looks like a variety of different things, an example of one success story might be a family that came to an event that we had, probably 4 or 5 years ago. We do an event called the No More Orphans Experience. And at this particular event, we communicate this message that there are this significant number of children in care. I mean, we live in the state of Florida. Currently, we've been hovering between 18 and 20,000 children in the system of care for several years. And there are a large number of children whose parents have had their rights terminated that are ready for adoption now, but there are a lot that are in that process. I mean, you're trying to figure out, can they, are there blood relatives? Are there biological family? Can mom and dad step back in? And again, that's always the goal. First and foremost, that is always the goal. But this particular family came to this event, and we don't just talk about foster care and adoption. We talk about advocating. We talk about serving families in need. And they heard about the opportunities, and they had a tug in their heart, and they walked away and they thought, you know what, we're going to support someone. We're going to support someone who feels like this is what they want to do. And so that's what they started doing. They started taking meals to families. They started helping. But then there was a sense that there was more. And within a year or two, they had a precious little one placed in their home. And they followed him through, from the time he came in the system to them as an infant. It was time for him to be adopted. But the beautiful part of the story was that another family that they knew who couldn't have children and had been praying about adoption and had been serving them as a foster family, they had also come to an event of ours. Not the same one, different event, totally different event, different people connecting with the need at different points. And long story short, this precious little guy found his forever family. And he is, the youngest of a sibling set of 4. And it's just this beautiful picture of children finding homes, and not just a foster home, but a permanent adoptive forever home as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there are countless stories. Like we had a situation. I say it's a situation. It was kind of one of those times where you kind of sit back and chuckle. But we had a family that came to our event who had been foster parents, and they had adopted through the foster care system, and they heard about one of our events, and they brought their kids because they thought, you know what, we want the kids to be a part of this. We want to see, you know, our heart and the community, and figure out, you know, how can we serve? You know, maybe we can make a meal, maybe we can, you know, I mean, maybe clothes, they have ideas. Anyway, they come to the event and they're getting ready to leave, and their daughter looks at them and says, so when are we going to foster? And they were like, well, we didn't really come for that. She goes, how can we not? Like, how can we not? We have to. This is something that we need to do as a family. And so, long story short, they step back in. Countless children later. I mean, like,
wow.
their home has been filled for 5 years. They've adopted children. I mean, it's this picture of, yeah, I mean, it's just, and you go, it was the children. You know, it's like that, you hear the quote, a little child shall lead them. Like, in some cases, that's what we've seen. You know, in our other areas of care, we've watched survivors. We've had the privilege of partnering with organizations that are on the streets, in the strip clubs, in the brothels, that are, and we are sending resources, sending volunteers, meeting needs, building rooms, making it possible for them to add more beds so that they can get more women off the street. We've created counseling areas. Like, but in the middle of all of that, people that are there are going, I think I can do more. And from that comes an exercise room, or a lawn company that says, you know what, I'll come back and I'll take care of your lawn. And he's for 2 years taking care of the lawn. I'm like, free. I mean, and I'm thinking, these are the things these are the stories, but there are hundreds of them. Like, there are hundreds. You know, we have an orphanage that we support in Haiti, that we've been able to support through COVID. 11 children, and we were able to provide the house parents with a car in the middle of one of the, you know, I mean, in the United States, in first world, COVID hit us hard. In third world, it hit so much harder. And in the middle of that time of crisis, there was a lot happening. There was a lot of desperation, and we were able to provide a car for the house parents. And now we've invested in the house parents, and they're going to be starting a business. So it's this idea of, you know, of really trying to break that cycle of poverty and help in a way that is powerful, and not just for right now, but for each one of those kids in the home to go, wow, I can own my own business. I can do this. Yeah. Something I can do. And we're seeing that here in the States as well. We're working with, there's a school we work with that 100% of the children live below the poverty line. And we've been able to go in and to provide them with a clothes closet, provide them with books, you know, support pounds and pounds of mulch, you know, for the playground. I mean, like, there's so much need, but helping normal people find their place in meeting that need. It's just incredible. And I mean, I'll finish with this one, but you know, this year's been really exciting because, you know, here in Tampa, we had the Super Bowl, and with exciting things like the Super Bowl come a lot of crazy. And even though we're in COVID and, you know, socially distanced and masked and everything, you know, these issues don't stop because of a pandemic. They don't. Kids don't stop being abused and neglected and abandoned because of the pandemic. Women don't stop being abused and sold. Men, children, like, it doesn't stop because COVID decided to step on the scene. In fact, if anything, it's aggravated or exacerbated some of those situations. And so this year, when they decided that the Super Bowl was on, we were able to partner with It's a Penalty and the Soap Project and In Our Backyard. And in January, abiding by all the CDC guidelines, we had one of our church partners open up the house, and it was a big house. So there was room for everyone. But we had over 400 volunteers come out and be trained, to spot the signs of human trafficking. And then we canvassed, 200 hotels, convenience stores, 24-hour restaurants, and they identified over 20 missing children from posters were identified. And women were rescued. I mean, it was, I know Sheriff Chuck Forrester, our sheriff here in town, got on and he said, it was a community effort. We were working together, doing our part. What does that look like? But there's story after story after story, and I could tell more. We could talk well past 9, and I could continue. The beauty of being in it for as long as we have been is that we get to see the beginning, the middle, and the end, or the rest of the story, where the next part of the story begins, I should say. Yes. Maybe the end of one story and the beginning of another, which you don't always get to see sometimes. And so we're just, I don't know, constantly blown away by what God is doing and how we get to be a part of it.
This has my heart so full, and there's a wealth to life that's not money.
That's right.
Wealth in our hearts. There's a wealth in our emotions where we're full off of the joy that I believe God gives us as we do right unto others. And that wealth tank is full as I listen to the powerful work that you are doing as you're coupling with other organizations. And I see Mrs. Dottie Skipper has tuned into the show, and she's a rock star doing some phenomenal things as well. So
she's our anti-trafficking director. So yes. She's part of my team. We are so honored. God has brought us some incredible people. I said to you earlier, if you had said this is what I would be doing and who I would be doing it with, I might have gone, really? Wow. But but to walk it, what an incredible blessing. Yeah.
This is so amazing. And so it just makes me think, you guys are so successful at truly getting down and dirty and serving and making it happen and getting results. What do you think has really attributed to that success in this organization?
I think this one it's interesting because this one is almost an easier question to answer for me, but it's because our heart is unity. Our heart as an organization is unity. We are stronger together. When we collaborate, when we come together, we can do so much more than we can do on our own. And so we don't need to recreate the wheel. I don't need to recreate what my hardworking brothers and sisters have been doing on the front lines for years. What I need to do is come alongside and say, what resources do you need? How can we support? What kind of volunteers do you need? And our team is prepped and ready to go when it comes to that. And so, regardless of whether you find us at an anti-trafficking event or at a No More Orphans experience, or if you're able to come out and serve with us on outreach, you're going to find other organizations that are there. When we did that Super Bowl outreach, Dottie, who we were just talking about, had a hand, and she, rallied the community. We had 27 organizations together. We were together as one team, not as separate, but as one, because when we come together, we can just do so much more. And it's the same thing when you look at the issues of the orphan care crisis. It's like, or the foster care crisis, you don't just need someone to foster or adopt. You need someone to mentor. You need someone standing in the justice system. You need someone stepping in. You need someone serving. You need someone donating clothes to the clothes closet. Yeah. There are so many different places that people can partner, and so many good partners. We don't need to be an island unto ourselves. And so I feel like that's where the strength comes from, is that we're not afraid to say, We don't have it all. We know what we're called to do. We know we're called to be this megaphone and this unifier and to send people out. But we also know that we're called to paint this beautiful picture of, look what we can do together. You know, I mean, it's just incredible and exciting.
This is powerful, and I'm wishing you all the success. And of course, we'll follow up after this. And it just makes me think too, where do you see this organization, the No More Foundation, heading in its success within the next 5 years?
Well, I would tell you, God, when we launched, gave us a vision that was bigger than us. And from the beginning, although Tampa is our home, and we love what we get to do in the greater Tampa Bay area, and Florida is our home, and we love serving the state of Florida, I know that we're called to serve the nation. I know that we're called to serve other nations. I know that this is a national movement. This is a movement of people. We want to see 1 million people move to action. We want to see a massive army of people doing the work together. And here in our city, here in our state, in our nation, and in every corner of the globe that God would send us to. And so it's kind of crazy. It's way bigger than us. And the only way we're going to do it is if God send us the senders, because we need some senders. We need some people who go, I can get behind that. I can put funds behind that. I can see that, and I want to support that. But it's that kind of a vision. And I believe that God is already opening the doors to get us there. We're already seeing doors open at a national level, and we're just walking through them as they open.
So I have a question as far as if people wanted to contact you at More Foundation, where would they reach you at? Because I'm going to put that information and display it here so that people can follow up.
Okay, so our website, do you want me to type it in, or do you want to type it in?
I got it. I'm going to type it in.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to blast it.
It's FOR, nomore.org. fornomore.org. And they can email me. They can email me. My first name is Tammy, Tami, at fornomore.org. But if you log on, there's information. You can, contact us for info, find out about volunteer opportunities, hear about the issues, see what we're passionate about. Follow us on social media. For No More, at For No More at Facebook and Instagram. You can go there. We're currently in the middle of a campaign, #24 for foster care, because May is National Foster Care Awareness Month. And so we are inviting people to join us in the 24 for Foster Care Challenge, where we encourage people to dedicate 24 minutes of their time doing something that they love. You can run, you can bike, you can do CrossFit. We actually have a CrossFit gym in Winter Garden that is joining us. You can, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. We've got a motorcycle group that's going to do a ride. We have families that are doing crafts around the table. We have people. I have a volleyball team that just, did a 24 day where they did all of their exercises in lots of 24. But the goal is for everyone to dedicate 24. It can be minutes, miles, reps, whatever you want, 24 minutes or 24 miles or 24 reps, and then to give $24, which goes to helping us recruit and mobilize people to care for children in the foster care system, and then share it with 24 people. So dedicate 24, give 24, share with 24, because honestly, and people go, why 24? The average amount of time a child spends in the foster care system is 24 months. Some websites say 20 months. Some say a little bit longer. It varies, but the average amount of time is right there, about 2 years. And so it's a way to help raise awareness, connect people, and plug them in to opportunities to serve. So if they go to fornomore.org/24 for foster care, they can sign up. They can let us know what they're gonna do with their 24. They can donate right there online. They can, under the share, we've got a toolkit with 24 stats, with
Wow.
bags that they can put together. I mean, we will
awesome.
help make it happen, but it's exciting.
Wow. I'm trying to get all this on. Let me know if I have this right. Is that the right website? Okay. So guys, make sure you're checking out
Actually, hold on. It's fornomore.org.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Go Gators. I blame all of my mistakes on the Gators. They taught me what I know. Okay, so let's do this. fornomore.org/24 for foster care.
Yes.
So guys, you can donate $24. You can do 24 minutes of working out, 24 minutes of cooking, 24 minutes of mentoring, 24 minutes of tutoring. I mean, there's so many opportunities here. Go to this website, fornomore.org/24 FORFOSTERCARE. That's fornomore.org/24 for foster care. Check them out ASAP. Share with 24 people. This is a phenomenal cause, and I'm so happy that we have been able to talk about this. And so, Tammy, with that said, is there anything else that you would like to ask the community to support you in regarding any of the causes?
Honestly, I would love for you guys to just sign up to hear about what's going on, because there are needs that are constantly popping up, and I would love to keep you up to date. Like, we actually have an event coming up May 16th. I know this talk show is going to go all over. So if you know anybody in Citrus County, we're going to be at Seven Rivers Church on Sunday, May 16th. We've got a No More Orphans experience up there. On June 6th, we're going to be at Celebration Church in Tallahassee. And we've got a lot planned for the rest of the year. We've got outreaches scheduled. We have ways that people can get involved. They can give, gather, go with us, serve with us. I think my challenge would be to not sit. I think we have a tendency to sometimes think, gosh, what can I do? There is a lot that you can do. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young you are. I don't care how educated you are. I don't care what your skill set is or what number you are on the Enneagram. There is something that you can do. We all can do. We live in a time in history where more people are struggling with mental health, struggling with depression, struggling to know that they matter. And for those of us that can, we need to get out there and help people see that they matter. And there's so much we can do. And if there's a way that No More can step in to help you do that, we want to. So connect with us however you can, so that we can keep you up to date. I mean, honestly, that's what we want to see. We want to see people mobilized to action, to care for the vulnerable, and we want to make that happen, whatever it takes. We truly believe that the church is called to be the hope of the world, that we in our communities can bring hope and healing. That's what we're all called to do. And so find your part, get involved, do something. We must do something.
Do something. This is so incredible. And I just think that it's almost like we just owe it to society to do what's right. And we know what's right. We know when our heart tugs at us and says, you need to get involved. And so I hope that everyone watching this show, whether you're in Florida, if you're in Atlanta, if you're in India, if you're wherever you are, and my prayers go out to you in India, all of my teams and all my peeps over there in India.
Right.
But wherever you guys are on the globe, feel free to get connected. Reach out to Tammy at fornomore.org. Remember, they're doing this phenomenal cause for foster children. Dedicate 24 minutes of your time. Give $24 and share this message with 24 people. Also, remember, they do have this event coming up at Seven Rivers Church in Sumter County, May 16th. Okay, so please reach out, become a part, find out how you fit in this cause. So I know there's room for everyone. Tammy, this has been a phenomenal show. Thank you so much again for your time and for the fantastic work that you are doing. Just know that my heart is there with you guys, and I am very hopeful that we can do some things together as well. We'll definitely be in touch. Guys, please make sure you follow me on social media, especially if you're wanting to reach out about the show. You can inbox me on Facebook. My Facebook is Miss India White. I'm only saying this for the sake of the radio. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. That's INDISPEAK, the letter N and the word teach. Instagram is INDI238, and my YouTube channel is India White 123. Please tune in to social media so we can get connected. If you're wanting to be on the show, send me an email in your bio to india.white.123@gmail.com. And guys, this has been a fantastic show again with the executive director of For No More, Tammy. And thank you again, Tammy, so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me. Such an honor.
Yes, yes. We'll be in touch. Have a wonderful night. And you guys take care.
Good night.
Good night.